Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are thrilled to welcome in studio one of the very first sponsors. Now, I should be really honest, Kirk. Kirk Bankstead, the founder, the mastermind behind Monaco Brewing Company, the always passionate, just always challenging the status quo and the powers that be. You were technically my second sponsor, full-time sponsor. My first sponsor was actually the owner of, I don't know if I should say it now. I probably should since doesn't own the restaurant anymore, Gale Street Inn. George Karzis was the first to be my sponsor, and I miss him. But it was a lovely evening at the Gale Street Inn last night.
We were there last night. We took a nice picture with everybody, and and I was sorry to hear that he's no longer running the place because it was a beautiful place.
It's gorgeous, and that was all that in there, all that design, all the murals and stuff. Yeah, he brought that to life. But it's also the food was fantastic. Oh, it's so good, those mussels and that creamy garlic sauce. So Kirk, you are, as I mentioned, one of my sponsors. But I want to thank my sponsors, Pride Coffee Roasters as well. Go to pridecoffeeroasters.com. Our friends at Source Solar, go to source.solar, make an appointment with Peter Sorellis. Maybe it's time to get solar panels on your house or business. Pride Coffee Roasters will be joining us at the Jefferson Park Sunday Market this Sunday. So make sure you stop by because I'll be volunteering there as well. So you are moving and shaking and grooving and all the things. Wild stuff is happening. What do you want to update us on?
Yeah, so I'm here in Chicago for the next couple days because I'm trying to figure out. I mean, we have this marketplace that is selling 120 different progressive businesses stuff. There's like 5,000 products that we sell, and we sell some of the products when you write your essay on Monday. We sell some of that stuff for our Substack page, and I've decided that if we're going to be the Amazon for progressives, which is what I've touted this website to be, if we're going to do that, then we need to fulfill the second part of that goal, which is to make sure that we're fighting for democracy and we're making sure that that the folks who are fighting these battles on the ground, the resistance folks, like in Broadview and in Chicago and Whipple in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, that we can help support them. And most of them are a generation younger or two generations younger than me.
Hey.
So I'm not. I'm not the marcher at all. I'm the businessman, but I want to support that. And so I was like, we're going to give a portion of our proceeds from selling progressive goods to the folks who are on the ground and working hard. And I ask you to point me in the right direction of folks in Chicago. And in the next break, probably we'll announce we've made 2 partnerships today where we are going to give a percentage of our proceeds from selling progressive goods to the real folks on the ground in Chicago that are fighting against ICE and against all this crazy authoritarian, this non-rule of law kind of situation going on here.
Well, and it's what's wild to me is I've been watching. I know that you're out of town, obviously here in Chicago rather than Wisconsin, and just seeing what's unfolding in Madison. Not far from where you have your own tap room, where a man was, I guess, was observed looking into cars. He was on his bike. I don't know if I recommend people watching. I feel like white people should watch the video, especially those who don't believe that this is happening.
Well, tell me. I'd love to comment. Do I have some time to comment on that? Because I'm a 49-year-old white man, but I have been arrested twice and been put in jail twice. And the second time for basically First Amendment, I was being an activist in a MAGA area in northern Wisconsin. And the second time, both times they treated me roughly, and my wrists hurt because they put the wrists on too much. And when I was in jail, I felt I was so angry. I was like, these guys are rough and violent. And it turned me against police, because as a white guy who's raised middle class, you're like, the police are our friends. And I no longer think that after I've personally gone through the ringer with police simply for protesting and speaking out against what I thought was corruption And so my initial reaction when I saw that video, and there's 4 white cops around this guy, and yeah, he sounds like he had a knife, but in London, if a guy's got a knife, they carry billy clubs around. They're not carrying guns around. And so I was like, how can 4 cops not subdue a guy without having to shoot the guy? And 10 years ago, I'd have been, maybe that guy deserved it. Maybe he, obviously he's probably mentally ill. He might have been violent, but my God, like, why do we keep on having to do this?
And I don't know whether or not mental health was an element to this, because there are folks. I mean, there's so much commentary, from the point of view of being a man of color on a bike in the situation is like they're like he was fleeing. Well, yeah, when they're being chased, because so many of the shootings happen when someone is fleeing. Like, fleeing is not an executionable offense, right?
Totally.
And reaching, whether or not you reach for a knife, we don't, because guess what? They weren't wearing body cameras.
Yeah.
They weren't wearing body cameras. So now, okay, so fine. So, but you know who else gets in these situations? Who else are often exposed to these situations? ER nurses, right? Who have people who have get enraged, have a weapon, and they de-escalate. They're trained, whether it's in a psych ward or ER. Teachers who have students who bring something to school, and they have to de-escalate. And those situations never end with someone being executed.
10 years ago, my first thought would have been, what did that black guy do wrong? Today, it's like, why did the cops overdo it? Why did the cops take this to the next level? It's just how you live life and where your perspectives change. And so now, unfortunately, the all cops are bad. It's not something I'm going to say with 100%, but too many of them are bad these days, and it pisses me off. So
I struggle with that. I actually did office hours for Monaco, and I was talking about this because I applied to be a police officer in 2001, in part because I grew up around cops, and it was after 9/11. I wanted to be a part of a team that was out there protecting people, making them feel safer, running toward danger. Right? I have always. I don't know why. It's not. My husband hates it, but I will when I see something, I run towards it, right? It's just an instinct that I have. And I talked in your office hours a bit about I was a lifeguard here in Chicago, which is like nowhere near. But yet it used to be a funnel to our first responder teams, to our departments. And as far as all cops being bad, because I know personally that's watching this does not negate all the, for me, the people that I know that are, here's where I'm coming from. I'm being very clumsy about it. Is that those cops make the jobs of good cops more dangerous, and it brews distrust. And I've there's a cop coming on the show on Monday. She'll be my guest co-host, Carmen Navarre-Jacone, who is one of those people who gets outraged not just when she sees that, but when she sees what ICE does. ICE makes the lives of law enforcement in danger because they are out there breaking the law every single day. And you can't get, like, people will send me all kinds of stuff. You cannot convince me that guys who are driving around masked in unmarked vehicles, and even Holman, Secretary, like, he said he doesn't even know if those cops in Houston and in Maine, in Biddeford, if they had their sirens and lights going. He says he doesn't know. And from what we can tell in the video, it looks like they're just driving him off the road, and they're trained that way.
Yeah, and just to, I don't know who, you have a large listenership, but the all cops are bad motto is definitely been lassoed. It's been used by this really angry
That's ACAB,
youth.
Isn't it?
Yeah, ACAB. I mean, it's like this. It's an angry subset of folks who are just done. And they're generally younger, and they've seen too much of the video, and ICE is driving that way. But it's a phrase that's used, and I'm obviously it's too far to one side. But
because the alternative, like what happened in Seattle, is not the alternative either. Like these zones of cop-free zones.
But the thing is, like, I've dealt with Madison cops. I mean, we have a tap room in Madison, and there was a homeless person that threw a rock in our windshield and broke it. And so they had to do an investigation and figure it out, and we had video, and they found him, and the guy that I worked with was super professional. He was a cop of color, and we're in an area that's primarily African American, where our tap room is, and he knows all the homeless guys, personally. So he just said he went to the guy, he knew who he was, and he went to him, and he's like, "Don't ever come there again, and we'll put you in jail if you do it again." But he's like, it's better it's better just to talk to these guys than to throw them in jail, because it just uses resources and they're going to go back in jail. And he's like, just talk them off an edge or something like that, you know. So that's my first experience with Madison. I mean, if any cops are going to be good in Wisconsin, they should be in Madison.
I have, and believe it or not, I have friends who are liberals who are on the police department who love their job and hate so much of what happens that represents them.
Yeah.
And try to be the good from within. And we should be hiring good cops and people with a good heart. But I also don't know what happens over the course of what they see, what they're exposed to. And there's also this mentality that I had a friend who was a cop. We haven't spoken in a long time, but he told me, like, basically, like, their job is to come home safe at night. Like, the rest of it, I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like what we paid you for.
No.
Like, I get that, and I want you to come home safe too. But if your mind is it's me or him, it's always going to be him. It's always going to be when you're a hammer, everyone's a nail.
Yeah.
And you're going to go after and we've seen it over and over, and it feels like it's escalating. And I also feel like this is part of what I also wonder if this is part of what this administration wants, is sort of escalating the racism, the vitriol, the hatred towards each other. They want a reason, whether it's to declare martial law, to suspend our elections, which we both are worried about in the midterms after that stupid speech last week. Yeah. Oh, my God. Anyway. Hey, everybody. How are you all doing? Good times. Kirk's like, hey, let's talk about the good things about our business. How about that shooting, Kirk?
Hey, I'm glad you went right into it, because I hadn't commented yet on our own socials, and I didn't really want to weigh in because there's just
so much happening nationally.
So much nationally, and it's like, geez, Louise, you know, and I want to find solutions. I don't want to just wallow in violence, you know, and negativity. But you're right. I did want to comment on it because, you know, I live there, and this just happened. So
yeah, someone just messaged. Yes, my niece is an emergency PA northeast of Madison, Wisconsin. The stories can be crazy. They de-escalate all the time. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that I'll do some work, and I've done it before. I've done research on police departments and municipalities that that send social teams, social workers, right? People who are there to de-escalate, whether it's a domestic violence situation, whether it's a homelessness situation, mental health crisis. Yeah. Because again, you know, when you're a hammer, everyone's a nail, and if you're not trained in de-escalating, you're not going to bother with it. Plus he put the other cops, how close he was shooting them. I'm surprised the other cops weren't injured. Yeah. On top of everything else.
Apparently, I mean, I don't know. Okay. I can see you get stabbed, you get hurt, you immediately, you know, see red, and you pull out your gun and shoot. You know, and so in the heat of the battle, you know, you never really know, but there shouldn't maybe be the heat of the battle. Like, just let the guy run until he's exhausted.
Exactly.
You know, and then
do you not have a car? He's on a bike.
I know. It's like you can just you know, just kind of control the situation, right, and stay your ground for a long time.
Couldn't you kettle him, like, you know, they do it all the time with protesters?
Yeah, exactly, right. Like
drive them into a situation where I don't know
how many tasers do you?
This is 1,000% you know, armchair quarterbacking. So. But let's take a break here. We're hanging out with Kirk Bangstead. He is the Chief Executive Officer, the founder of Minocqua Brewing Company. You can go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. Also go to Minocqua Brewing Company Substack, where some of you are watching us now. I don't know why I did my hands like this. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. By the way, you notice my Liberal Lawn banner on the back, which I also purchased from the Minocqua Brewing Company Marketplace. One of my favorite signs, one of my favorite companies. They have a lot of great companies. Go to Minocqua Brewing Company Marketplace. Is it Minocqua Brewing Company Marketplace? I'm on there so often.
MinocquaMarketplace.com.
MinocquaMarketplace.com makes more sense. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1115 Seattle, and hello to all of our friends tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, and now Substack with Minocqua Brewing Company. Please consider subscribing, sharing with your friends and family so they can join the conversation too. More in a moment. We will be right back with Kirk Bangstead.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
Or
and Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home here with the founder, the chief executive officer, the mastermind behind Minocqua Brewing Company, Kirk Banks, that joins me in studio. And I often, every Monday, write for Minocqua Brewing Company on Substack. He also has a marketplace, and we want to talk a little bit about what this entire endeavor is building toward. So go ahead, Kirk, take it away.
Yeah, so when Trump was elected, I was just, I was gutted like everybody else, and I started reading and about resistance movements, and it was like Professor Erica Chenoweth, Harvard Kennedy School professor, how to avoid authoritarian regimes in America, what we can do, and basically, long story short, if we can no longer hold elections, elections are the pivotal moments for countries to get out of authoritarian regimes. And if we can't do that, the only other nonviolent ways, to topple dictatorships are through strikes and through boycotts. So I've been writing for a year about, the fact that it's pretty clear there's a slow rolling coup right now. The Trump's trying to steal our elections in November. It's pretty clear, they've gerrymandered the South. The Voting Rights Act's been gutted by the bought and paid for Supreme Court. They've raided Georgia, and they're going to probably fake find stuff that says that the Georgia did things wrong, and they're going to, try to federalize, Georgia, and they're going to probably kick people off the voter rolls because they've got the voter rolls from the red states already. They're trying to get them from the blue states. It's very easy to just find the Democrats in the voter rolls and kick them off, even if it's illegal, but they'll do it, and then there'll be too much chaos before the election to get them back on. There's a slow rolling coup. There's it's gonna be chaos. I built the Minocqua marketplace for the terrible, aftermath if we've lost our elections. This tool, if we kind of take it to the nth degree, it's very minuscule now because I don't have enough money to build an Amazon for progressives. But the tool itself is a way to collect progressive companies to be able to boycott the companies who have donated to Trump's regime or support MAGA. And boycotting can't happen unless it's easy and cheap and you can get substitute products like toilet paper and shampoo and toothpaste and everything. And so the goal is not necessarily for Kirk to make a bunch of money by selling Trump, paraphernalia, right? Which is a lot of what we have on the site now. The goal is to be able to provide, good substitute products so people can boycott en masse. And so that's the purpose of this whole thing, and it's unfortunate that I can't realize it because I just don't have enough money. So we're gonna sell stocks on a crowdfunder through WeFunder in September, so that I can raise enough capital to be able to grow and partner with larger companies to provide all this stuff.
That's exciting.
But in doing that, and the reason I'm here in Chicago right now is like, if we're going to become the boycotting tool and help a bunch of progressive businesses out, we need to fulfill the second part of it is who's on the ground fighting for our rights and fighting for democracy. And it's a bunch of these nonprofits in both Chicago and the Twin Cities who you helped me partner with. And so that I'd love to announce who I just partnered with today. I don't know if there's a commercial or something.
Yeah, let's tease folks with that. And first, and before we do that, somebody else who is also committed to making sure that organizations throughout the Chicagoland area and beyond are doing well. He supports work like the work that the Banner Foods is doing. They have a walk coming up in August or September. Warren Price joins us from Niagara Falls. Warren, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh my goodness gracious, that's echoey. It's not too bad, but it's echoey. Are you broadcasting from your bathroom? What is that?
No, I'm in the kitchen of an Airbnb in Niagara Falls.
Okay. Can you? Maybe we'll try the living room when we do this on Saturday morning. Tell folks Yep.
Or the bathroom.
Don't do the bathroom. No, I can hear you. I can hear you. Hey, Warren, tell us about the walk coming up for Banner Foods.
On September 13th, there's a charity walk for raising money for the Walk for the Parks. And we're going to be bringing in the people that actually do the real legwork for this, not just the parks, but not just Banner, but the people that really handle it. And we're all excited that Sonia's going to be on, and she's going to tell us all about what they do in their charity world. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Excellent. So I'm very excited about that. So Banner Foods is a wholesaler grocer, and again, they are committed to supporting their community, including their Run for the Parks coming up in the... Whoa. Okay. I don't know what it is.
That was a chair. The chair I was sitting on.
Yeah. You might need to try the living room maybe on Saturday morning, just because we've got a lot of echo, and I can hear your chair moving around. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. At any rate, so Run for the Parks is coming up. I'm pulling up the information right now. How is Niagara Falls?
It's unbelievable. The skies are clear. The water was running.
I hope the water was running.
It's pretty interesting.
They didn't turn it off. That would stink. If you got to Niagara Falls and they turned the spigot off, that would suck.
Yeah.
September 13th, it's a Run for the Parks. It's a 5K run, walk, or roll. So you don't have to run. You don't have to walk. You could always ride your bike. You could always, be on a skateboard, roller skates. You can push a wheelchair. All the great things.
Good.
Yep. Yeah. It's ChicagoParksFoundation.org/run. Sponsored by Banner Wholesale Grocery. Exactly.
And we'll see you Saturday.
What do you have a dog with you? What is going on? Yeah, you're going to figure out a different audio situation, because if we do this on Saturday like this, you can't move a single thing in the room that you're in. Like, is that your keys?
Okay, how is it now? How is it now?
As they like to call me around this station, I'm a sound snob, and it's hurting my soul.
Okay, I'll do my best.
No, yeah, we'll figure it out on Saturday. I look forward to it. Hawk Takes the Wheel Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. I'll be riding sidecar with him, and I look forward to talking to you and hearing more about Niagara Falls and Run for the Parks with Banner Foods.
All right, you guys have a great night.
You too. Thank you. And that's our sound check for the show, and it was successful in the sense of, like, I hope he fixes that. Let's take a break here and continue. I love you, Warren. Lady B, let's open up the phone lines if we can, if we've got a chance, and let folks give us a call, and we're going to find out which organizations Kirk Bankstead and Monaco Brewing Company is teaming up with to make sure that those who are battling, here's the thing, I shouldn't even be a fight, but supporting people in our communities who are at the tip of the spear when it comes to being targeted by ICE and this administration. More with Kirk Bankstead when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, and our friends tuning in digitally like Facebook, YouTube, and Substack through Monaco Brewing Company. Is it Times? Is that where we're broadcasting?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monaco Brewing Company Times. I do work for you, so I should probably know what that is and figure it out.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our conversation here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle. Hello to our friends tuning in digitally, including our podcasts, which are all available at heartlandsignal.com. Joining me in studio is the founder of Monaco Brewing Company. He has been fearless in his fight against fascism, going back to the COVID days when he made sure that, he was suing the Board of Education in Wisconsin because they were not making sure that our communities are safe by keeping the schools open, and the COVID rates spiked. And he also has taken on the charter schools in Wisconsin. He puts his money where his mouth is. He walks the walk. And I know that you and I get ourselves into trouble with our passion, but we come from a place of fierceness and fighting for our communities.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get myself into trouble if the Democratic Party actually did the things that they said that they believed in doing, or the politicians who are elected with the Democratic Party did the things that they say they want to do, which is make life more affordable, which has helped the working class. And too often, the people we elect as Democrats don't work hard enough and don't fight hard enough for us, and we don't see change. And because of that, we see cynicism, and we get guys like Donald Trump into office.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, it's hard to argue with like a lack of urgency. from Democrats. And I don't mean just now. I mean, this is like right now they're not in power, but when they have been, when they've had more power, and whether it's in the form of Biden putting up signs that says for every bridge, every road, every construction site that came from federal dollars brought to you by President Biden. I mean, if this MF is going to put his face on a passport and on a coin and all that stuff, at the very least, be honest. Putting up a billboard would have been truthful.
Yeah.
And Obama, as much as he was inspiring and did things that we liked, there were a lot of things that have made these situations even more challenging.
Yeah. No, there's too many. There's too many Democrats in power. It's obvious. They're old. They want to stay in power. They've been there for years. They don't care if things change in America. They care about having a really comfortable life in Washington, D.C. And there's a revolution happening right now because of that, because it's gone so far off to one side. And I am all in with the folks who are challenging the status quo and rejecting the money from special interests in AIPAC. And I never thought I would be. I was way more moderate 10 years ago, but I am all in supporting the El Sayeds of the world, the Francesca Hongs of the world, the Mamdanis of the world, the AOCs, the Bernies. That's my crowd.
Well, and the other thing, and to that, for all those people, it's also about the wealthy, the oligarchy, and that is really at the heart of this. The reason you have a lot of Democrats who are taking that kind of money because they think if they don't have it, well, then I can't compete, and I think there is a reasoning that they do of like, well, if I don't take that money, then someone worse than me that take that money. You want me instead of them, and they game it out that way to justify taking that money and being beholden.
And this is where, and maybe it's just a pie in the sky dream, but you see it happening in Michigan when you have Haley Stevens, right? She's being funded now like $40 million, $50 million by AIPAC. Every time they run an ad that's BS, you have an army of 20-year-olds who are on Instagram and TikTok saying this is BS, and they're counterbalancing the millions with independent media and social media and influencers.
Right.
And I actually believe, because I've seen it happen, I even saw it happen against me when I ran for governor for a second. I got crucified by these 20-year-olds, who were like, no, Francesca Hong's our candidate and you can't get in the way. And I'm like, I've never seen the fact that you could possibly counterbalance millions of dollars in advertising with influencers.
Yep.
And that's
wild.
Yeah. And I hope we can do it. And that's, it leads me back to our little ecosystem that we're trying to create where, we want to have, we are in sort of, I mean, you've got an audience, I've got an audience. To a certain degree, we're influencers. We're like maybe C-. We don't have millions of people hanging on every word, but some people listen to us. And I'm trying to hope that, we can use our voices and our platforms to direct energy at the folks who are actually fighting. We've seen the influencers of the 20-year-olds who are in the marches in Broadview and stuff, and that's great, and they're amplifying, and that's exactly what they need to be doing. That's what we should be doing. But the folks who are actually doing the fighting are some of these groups you introduced me to in the last week that I just met today.
And tell us a little bit about those the partnerships, or at least the benefit with which we intend to direct towards them.
Yeah. So. We've just made substantial donations today to the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, which is a coalition of over 100 organizations that are all doing different things to fight ICE and to counterbalance people getting disappeared, to counterbalance the absence of due process, all the things that we're seeing on video. These folks, because it's 100 groups, and so this is the coalition. Like the rapid response networks are made up with different groups who are all doing different things, but they're all connected, and that's how we win. Is that you have a ton of groups, but this coalition is like the parent of the groups, and you introduced me to them, and I was like, this is great because these guys are connected, and they're the ones. If we can get them some money, they can divvy it out when they need to in order to get the money to the right folks, like the lawyers who are bailing people out, or the people who need saline solution, when they're getting pepper sprayed. So, like, this is a good group, and so the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. I met with Alex today, and we are going to give a percentage of the profits of everything that is sold on the Minocqua marketplace. We're going to give a percentage of the profits to these guys every month. And if we keep on selling more stuff, we can give them more money, and that's something I'm really happy about, because I care. It's not about making money when fascism is here. Like, I kind of want to make money maybe 7 years from now when we beat Trump, and all this work maybe will pay off. But right now, we need to fund the folks that are fighting.
Well, so what it does is it creates a circle, right? Because you are taking money from the proceeds of what we are making off the marketplace to fund the work that they are doing, and supporting, business owners who are doing a lot of them are environmentally friendly. They're woman-owned, LGBTQ plus owned, people of color. I mean, and they support those, and they're based in the kind of values that people want to see reflected when they spend their money. When you put your money where your values are, that's how we move forward through this in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, and all the businesses, like, it's like a bunch of little fish are bigger than one fish, and the little fish that we've collected, have all stuck their necks out to be progressive businesses. And I know more than anybody how hard that is. Like, you get crushed by MAGA online if you're a business who has sticks to their values. So all these people have gotten crushed in their own way, and we joined together. We have our own marketplace now where it doesn't matter. Our audience are progressives. They're not necessarily the guy across the street who wants to crush them. Yeah. So they've sucked their necks out. They're going to help us boycott the big guys, which hopefully will affect regime change. And in the meantime, we're funding the warriors on the ground. If it works, it's like it's all minuscule right now. But to me, in my little beer-soaked brain, it really works. Like, the idea works.
Well, it's kind of like a digital Main Street, right? Where like remember in It's a Wonderful Life when Jimmy Stewart's talking about, like, look, your money isn't here. Your money is in your neighbor's mortgage, in Martini's bar, in the grocery store, in the community of business owners and lives, so that we can all be in this together. Right. It's a little bit of that. Let's take a call from Jeff. He wants to talk about the marketplace. Jeff is calling from Elgin. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, thanks for bringing up It's a Wonderful Life. Love Frank Capra. That's amazing. Good job. You're on the right page. I just got to say, I had friends that were out of town on vacation, and I was cat sitting for them, and they brought me back a 4-pack of Minocqua that I haven't dipped into yet. I'm keeping it for later. And it's like a smuggling thing across the Wisconsin border, getting it back into Illinois. But they also brought me back a great shirt that says "Drink beer, don't be racist," and it's so soft and awesome. So I love it. You guys are great.
Thanks, man.
So with the marketplace, look at equity crowdfunding that. You guys can raise a significant amount of money just from shoppers who have then a vested interest in the continuation of the marketplace. And those can be individual shoppers, those can be individual vendors on the marketplace that all make those investments and help it grow. And basically, you're committing to each other that you're going to plow a portion of your profits back into continuing to grow the platform. Yep. I'm involved with some organizations that have used equity crowdfunding really successfully to raise money for their projects. And I think that would be a great way to fuel this. And it's totally grassroots. We do most of our equity crowdfunding under the USA Jobs Act, which passed in like 2014, 2015, which allowed like individual investors to start getting involved more in stuff that used to have to be a venture capitalist or a hedge fund to get involved in some of these early stage companies to start investing. And now ordinary people can do it one share at a time. Yep. So that'll be a great thing for you guys to investigate for the marketplace to help it grow. And I got to throw a plug in, spread your social media eggs into a lot of different baskets, because as we march and slide towards a further authoritarian regime, it's only a matter of time before someone in that administration leans hard on Zuckerberg, for instance, and decides that all the meta platforms suddenly are blocking content, but also forwarding information directly to Homeland Security or, whatever, if they're not already doing that, honestly. So I feel like you guys got to maybe even stay old school with newsletters and, chat groups and things like that, because as we've seen, this administration has no shame about leaning on corporate interests to pull those levers and get them to act on their behalf. But I'm here for it. Like, keep up the good work, and I'm glad you're here in person on Patty's show.
Let me ask you. Let me. Thanks, brother. The WeFunder is our platform that we've chosen to work with. Is that? Are you? You're calling equality?
WeFunder's great. Like Start Engine is another platform. We have also found over the years, because my organization's been doing this now we're in round 11 of equity crowdfunding, and we found that if we every once in a while change platforms, we get a completely different audience. That's because they market to their own group and they collect their own, contact information from investors and whatever. But after a while, it becomes kind of like an echo chamber where it's the same people getting marketed to over and over again. So every once in a while, you want to hop to like Kickstarter or hop over to, Start Engine or whatever. But the actual the actual goal of the equity crowdfunding is these people that are investing aren't just getting swag, and they're not just getting like a credit. They're getting equity. They're buying shares essentially. And it might be restricted stock. It might not be common stock with full voting rights, but it's still equity in the venture, which helps propel things along. And obviously that cash flow makes all the difference when it comes time to advertising and when it comes time to, launching a new e-commerce platform and, all that jazz. My other thing, just while I'm thinking of it, is legal defense funds have nowhere near the regulations, the reporting requirements, or any of the stuff that you have for PACs or any kind of political donations. I learned that the hard way when I was trying to track down some stuff on Donald Trump's legal defense fund framework with his Florida case with the documents. So you can use that against them as well by establishing a robust legal defense fund for yourselves. It operates by different rules than traditional charitable donations and by campaign finance rules. So you really kind of can build up a emergency fund that way that then can be directed with very little oversight to organizations in a hurry that would need it, like bailing people out, for instance. So just throwing that out there.
You're reading my mind, brother. You read my essay on Sunday. You'll understand why what you're saying is 100% overlapping with what's going on with me right now.
Jeff, good to hear from you.
But we have to keep our sense of humor.
Yeah, no kidding. Thanks, Jeff. I'll talk to you again soon, my friend. Let's take a break here. Bye. We'll take a break here and continue our conversation with our friend Kirk Bangstead, the owner, the founder of Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com for some fascist tears and maybe some abolish ice. Did you say goes? Goes. I haven't tried that yet.
Me neither.
I need to try that. It sounds delicious.
We just made it, and it's a grapefruit
with salt,
saline, salinated beer, and ice and salt melts ice, and that's why we call it abolish ice.
I love it in this beautiful can. Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our conversation here on WCPT 820 AM, KKNW 1150 AM, and our friends listening digitally or watching digitally on Facebook, YouTube, Minocqua Brewing Company, Substack. Please subscribe and share with your friends and family so they can join the conversation too. More in a moment. We will be right back, and we'll take your calls and texts. I do have a text I want to get to saying I sound like a Republican, and I hear you, and I will talk about that when we come back.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Well, that was fast. Let's come back to this. So, yes, Texter is disappointed in some of the things that I was saying. I was you or both of us. My guess is both of us, because I was also saying I need where I'm coming from. Part of where I'm coming from is, one, I think there were opportunities along the way for universal health care, for abortion to be codified, for a lot of things along the way. And I think that the money has played a big part of that and ways in which people rationalize it. Now, I mentioned in this text, I ran as a Democrat again, and I ran because I believe that, people think that, like the woman who won the race basically did the I'm the only one, said that she was the only one that could protect women in the cases of rape and incest, and called me a disgusting extremist. Yeah. And it wasn't even a independent expenditure. It was from her campaign. Yeah. She weaponized the trauma of rape survivors, of homicide survivors. So I don't think that's an exception. There are people who want to stay in power at all costs, and they will cannibalize good Democrats. I'm with Kirk in the sense that I am with Elizabeth Warren and Joel Ossoff and Tellerico. And I mean, there are Democrats who reflect the values and the way I would want this fight to be fought. Corporate Democrats, which we're talking about, I think that there are, and this whole idea of like labels, it's tough, right? Because I told a DSA member years ago, over a decade ago, I go, look, this language is going to hurt. He was like, no, young people get what that means. I'm like, so not me. Yeah. I mean, I know what you mean, but when you're explaining, you're losing. Yeah. If you have to say, well, not socialist, not socialism, and I appreciate it, and I agree, but also language matters, and Democrats often suffer from messaging, and apparently I'm stuck, right? Like if I just go along and just act like everything's fine on my side of the line, then I'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think demanding more, and it's tough because I have a platform, but I know that I'm also reflecting the frustrations of other Democrats and liberals and independents, for that matter.
Yeah.
Right. Who would love to join Democrats in their fight, but just go, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with that. I will tell you this: I am fed up with conservative Democrats who are like, don't talk about trans issues, and that's why we lose. And you're like, oh my God, this is we're not the ones that bring it up all the time. By the way.
Yeah.
We are responsible in defending people who are being targeted, marginalized, and during the Holocaust, people with disabilities and trans individuals were the first ones who were targeted, which is happening right now when they go against the Olmstead Act, when the DOJ says we don't have to enforce that. And by the way, Democrats never did anything when it came to protecting people with disabilities, because in order to have those services, a disabled person cannot have more than $2,000 in assets, and nobody did anything to fix that. So yes, come at me. John Ossoff, thank you, Vampire D. Vampire Hunter D.
You went through your journey, and 6 years ago, I was running a brew pub, and I wasn't saying anything about my political leanings because I just wanted to do what I was supposed to do to have a successful business. And I was the most bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Democrat ever when I leaned in during COVID and cared. And then if you live and breathe politics every day of your life, and you try to beat the system that's already in place and try to do more. I tried to do more. I sued to get rid of voucher schools. I raised money to sue to get rid of to get Trump off the ballot in Wisconsin. Governor Evers, a Democratic governor, blocked my lawsuit to get rid of voucher schools, and he's supposed to be the education governor. But guess what? He's funded by he was funded by the voucher lobby. And so, and I found out that by Kelda Roy's. And then, I've helped switch the Wisconsin Supreme Court 4-3, to a majority liberal court. Countless time. They've kicked the ball down the field, or they kicked the ball down to the curb about gerrymandering. We could have had a balanced Congress. The level of fear and cowardice in terms of the Democrats that are running, at least Wisconsin, I don't know that much about Illinois, is shameful. I'm a true activist at this point, and I think I almost have to leave the state. I'll talk a little bit more about why that's going to happen on Sunday. But the level of cowardice and no strength has turned me away from this side of the Democratic Party. I will never leave the Democratic Party, but we have to change
to be
it.
Part of, and I get where people are coming from, because we're in such a treacherous time right now. Let me get to our callers. Let's get to Jim on line 1. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hi, Patty. And Kurt, you have to be delighted with your baseball team up there.
The Brewers.
But I'm equally delighted. We've got anyway, we've got the Pope behind us on the Chicago White Sox.
My Lord and Savior.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, and I'm sure it continues its prayers. They're having a fabulous season. But anyway, I called because 65,000 souls are in ICE detention around the United States. Now, you were talking about errant people using guns and so on. Imagine the guards in these prisons. And they're insisting on opening Guantanamo again, the Virgin Islands. They picked up 43,000 people in June alone. Now, these are human souls that with the Statue of Liberty, we've all seen the Statue of Liberty. You come and we'll help anybody here. But my point is, living on the west side of Chicago, I have never been accosted by an immigrant in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been accosted by a lot of people, but not an immigrant. And my right-handed God, I'm up there in age. And when they talk about the criminals and the bad criminals and all that, I just laugh at it because it's just not true. It just isn't true. You might get one immigrant that runs afoul of the law, but think of the majority of immigrants that don't run afoul of the law. But to torture, but think of it. ICE is bad enough. What are these maniacs in the prisons doing to these people?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
I know. There's no cameras. There's no, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing. I think 40 have died. A couple have been left in the out in the street to die.
Yeah. I know.
No medical attention. I mean,
it's
what are we doing here? No, but what are we doing here? How did we get here? Hey, real quick. You remember the Jones' last guest? He was talking about nuclear holocaust. Saudi's going to get nuclear. Saudi's going to get a bomb. Iran's going to get a bomb. Everybody's going to get a bomb. And Trump started it. I mean, they must have war gamed this out.
Yep.
But that's where. This might be all mute points, and we might be blown to smithereens before we even get anything done. Anyway, Kirk, good luck with the Brewers and Diamond Sox, man. I'd like to see the Pope throw out the first pitch in Milwaukee in the World Series. Anyway, you guys have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Let's get to Al in Franklin Park. Hey, Al, what's on your mind, my friend? Hey, Al. Oh, hold on a second.
Am I on?
Hey, yes, go ahead.
Oh, there we go. Hi. Good to talk to you. I was just going to say what a great job you are all doing at connecting and how much work it is and how much effort you put into it. And, I try to do that as well. And, one of the places I've been doing a lot of work with is NWSOFA, the Northwest Suburb Organizing for Action Indivisible Group.
Okay.
And we have morning meetings at 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock every day. And we have many activists in there all talking about what they are doing around the nation. The Zoom call turns into being nationwide. And we have, like a lawyer in Florida. We have a couple of people from Indivisible and in Central Illinois. We have people from Las Vegas, California.
Awesome.
All around. And everyone is talking about the actions they are taking. And we have groups that are working on gun control, messaging. We're going to be having a Zoom, I believe it's next week, on messaging where
which is what we need. We definitely need a lot more messaging. I got to run to the break, Al. I'm so sorry to jam you up against the break. It's like you're Karen from Chicago on Stephanie Miller's show.
I'll call back. I have more I can tell you about.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's Al Franklin Park. Let's take a break here. We'll continue in just a moment with Kirk Bangstead. Did you want to say something real quick? Is it fast?
No.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty. More after this on WCPT.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home. Thank you to our sponsors, Pride Coffee Roasters. Go to pridecoffeeroasters.com and put in an order for the best single origin roasted to order coffee beans you have ever had. Every single coffee tastes like a love letter in a mug. And thank you to our sponsors who were so gracious in contributing to our Pride Parade float. We also want to thank our friends at Source Solar. Go to source.solar, make an appointment with Peter Sorellis. Maybe it's time to get solar panels on your house or business. He's partnered with Illinois Solar for All to help you with that financing. That's source.solar. And thank you to our friends at Minocqua Brewing Company. What? It just so happens we have the founder, the owner of Minocqua Brewing Company, Kirk Bangstead. If you've just joined us, with our friends on KTNF AM 950, you missed some of our conversation in the last hour where we had some tense words for corporate Democrats, and I'm getting a bunch of texts. So let me just thank you for listening. First of all, I think that I see this point from our friend D, who says there is one massive caveat that applies with participating in rival factions of fascism. To wit, it helps fascists, and I understand where you're coming from, and I get it, and I the thing is, you guys know that I wear my emotions on my sleeve. So coming in here and doing a 2-hour show every single day, every once in a while my frustrations are going to bubble up. And if you're saying that it feeds the enemy, I appreciate and hear where you're coming from. And I get it, Kirk. I have a job to do here every single day, and I want to make sure people are engaged and fired up and sometimes consoled, sometimes called to action. At any rate, you wanted to share something before we go.
Yeah, well, first of all, you can't if you're not fighting from the inside of. We're not saying we're going to come and destroy the Democratic Party.
No,
I'm saying I want to help fix the Democratic Party so we refocus on what's important, which is helping the working class. So of course we're going to work within the system to try to change the system. I did want to mention before we leave, I had another wonderful conversation with some folks at the Midwest. The Midwest Immigration Bond Fund today, and these guys raise money to bail out immigrants all throughout the Midwest, like Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, Kentucky, Indiana, and they do the hard work of getting people who have been disappeared undisappeared. So we met with them, a woman named Alejandra today, and we're going to start donating to these guys as well through some of the profits of what we sell in the Minocqua marketplace. So if you want to help both the Midwest Immigration Bond Fund and you want to help the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, you can do that by donating directly to them, which you should do, or simply buy stuff from us, which is like toilet paper and toothpaste and stuff from
I got my
progressive
charcoal
companies.
dental floss coming soon, by the way.
But I wanted to mention that because we're making some great inroads with some great groups here in Chicago that are really fighting in the front lines, and they deserve to be recognized and they deserve to be funded.
Thank you so much, Kirk, and thank you so much for joining us in studio. Coming up, we have interviews with Steve Dolder and Mitchell Berman, and I just want to sign off with Al's thoughts. Let me close with there's so much to do, and we all have to do something extra. Thank you, everybody. I will talk to you again later. Thank you, Lady B.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
From city streets to political beats, you're driving it home with Patti Vasquez, where progressive talk fuels the ride.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our drive home on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, and of course, all of our friends who are tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, and now Minocqua Brewing Company's Substack. Please consider subscribing, and when you do, share that with your friends and family so they can join the conversation too. We also want to thank our friends who are listening in the future times, like our friends from Politics Bar Call You, on our podcast available at heartlandsignal.com, where you'll also find our incredible newsroom catching the stories that shape our democracy. Again, that's heartlandsignal.com. Hey, folks, you know that I spent a lot of time driving to and from our neighboring state, well, my neighboring state and here in Illinois. We went up to Wisconsin, and they have a term for us there, so I decided to lean into it. I created a group called Fibs for Wisconsin, and we went door knocking for, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz, and then we went back for some of the Supreme Court races, especially when Elon Musk decided he needed to get involved, and that's been investigated, and apparently there might be charges. But at any rate, I got to meet a lot of great folks doing incredible work in southeastern Wisconsin. Southern Wisconsin. Spent a lot of time in Walworth and Racine, in Kenosha, Rock County. And one of those folks is joining us right now because he has taken on the challenge of running to represent his communities. But this is State Senate District 11, Southern Wisconsin, with a seat that Steve Nass held for years. He's retiring. So this race is wide open, and the whole chamber in Wisconsin is close enough that a district like this one could tip control, where GOP has held some power for quite some time. When Washington cuts Medicaid and food assistance and ships a bill back to the states, whoever wins this seat is one of the people who decides what Wisconsin does about it. And my guess is one of the two Democrats running in the August primary. Steve Dolder has spent his career in a racing classroom teaching science, and he also told me he also has done computer science. We'll talk about that perhaps. He led the Racing Teachers Union, and he spent decades pushing for clean energy and clean government. Steve, first of all, I'll tell folks that we had to redo this because I had a little bit of a tech issue. So thank you for your generosity of time.
Thank you, Patty. I really appreciate driving with you here on WCPT.
Oh, we're glad to have you. And this is, folks won't know this, but we didn't have the video, so now I get to see you, so it makes better. It makes it much better. What I'd like to know, and I should have told you I wanted to ask you a bunch of different questions. Tell me a little bit, like growing up, was your family politically active? Like when did you start getting engaged and wanting to roll your sleeves up?
Well, my dad was a union carpenter. I grew up with a hammer in my hand and not a silver spoon. He was strong union, and I actually grew up in Sheboygan County in rural town of Wilson. And it was a time when Kohler, the UAW, was on strike, and it was a very vicious strike, and they did settle. So I grew up union and politically active. My parents were politically active, and my mom basically was so involved with the community and the local, our local area. I grew up surrounded by woods, cows, actually, cows in the backyard and stuff like that. So my roots are in rural areas and protection of the environment. I grew up there. I loved it. I was three miles, or actually 3 blocks from Edgewater coal plant. And so we suffered all of the wonderful clean coal aspects. My mom would have to clean basically the windowsills every day from the coal dust. So I grew up with coal, and I understand, that's why I'm pretty pro clean energy.
Yeah, wow, I can't even imagine, basically living under that cloud. Today we're seeing across the Midwest, across the country, a lot of smoke from the fires in Canada, and this is the acceleration of global change, global climate change, and so the fact that you've been doing this work for a long time, and so were you called? Was teaching a calling for you? What motivated you? Do you remember like a moment?
No, I went to UW Stevens Point and got a degree in resource management, so I've got the background basically in forestry, wildlife, which was a funny thing, taking a wildlife class, and then trees and shrubs and soil and biology. I ended up with a biology major and a resource management background. So, and Stevens Point was the natural resources school in the state at the time. And so I had that, I met great people. I actually did one of the first Earth Days at UW Stevens Point. And so I was one of the organizers there. So my roots go way back in terms of environment and politics.
Yeah, there you go. So this is an open seat. If you win this in November, first in August, for folks who don't know, the primary in Wisconsin is August 11th. And I believe, has early voting started yet?
The 28th, next
the 28th.
Tuesday.
That's it? That's all the early voting you have for this primary?
Right. Yeah, well, that's Wisconsin. I mean, it's pretty typical 2 weeks before the election in Wisconsin.
Okay. All right.
Obviously, though, the absentee ballots went out a long time ago.
Okay,
so I
folks,
was marching in some parades, and, shaking hands, and they said, "Oh yeah, I already voted for you." So they've been out.
Isn't that a nice feeling?
Oh yeah. It's been great. We did 3 parades across the district, and it's 4 counties. It's a pretty extensive district. Each Senate district is made up of 3 assembly seats. So I have 3 people under me that are working, and one of them they do have a primary also. Okay. So it's been great. I mean, we have what I wanted back in 2018. I wanted a Democrat in every position, and that was my goal.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you're getting all the pieces. And again, it's great feeling people tell you they voted for you. We've been talking a lot recently, and because it's affecting people, it's starting to take hold in ways I think a lot of people didn't imagine it would after last summer's passage of the Big Beautiful Bill Act. By the way, I forgot that someone reminded me that it's the Big Beautiful Bill Act. Like they for some reason put an A on there needlessly.
Bill and Act, yeah.
Yeah, Bill and Act. So Wisconsin own health department says hundreds of thousands of people could lose coverage, and that your state gets, is going to be handed a bill worth millions. And there are a lot of hospitals that are vulnerable to closure because of these cuts as well, in addition to other struggles with healthcare. What is something that you envision being able to do in the state of Wisconsin with the situation?
Well, we're one of the few states that have not expanded Medicare, so I immediately would, try to push that. It's kind of obviously single payer, a unified insurance policy would be great. I spent hours trying to figure out my own insurance. I'm on Medicare and stuff like that. Trying to get through the paperwork is just so crazy because nothing balances, and you try to call people now, it's crazy. But a lot of things we can do. I lived in Blanchardville, a small community in Iowa County, and they had their own community health center, which was they hired their own doctor, and it was great because you could just walk in and it was community oriented. And I'd like to explore a little bit more on how we can do that in underserved areas, especially in rural Wisconsin. And just on healthcare alone, we need more doctors, especially doctors that want to serve in rural areas. And it's very difficult for families, doctors that grew up in urban areas, to move their families into these rural areas. My high school that I taught at, my first high school, had 86 students, and that was with the eighth graders.
Yeah.
And I taught all the science except physics, so I learned a lot how to do everything in my head quickly, rather than write it down, because I didn't have time.
Wow.
6 different preps every day. And so, but again, these rural areas are underserved, and doctors just don't want to practice there. And not so much the doctors themselves, but their families. And we need to make sure we have incentives for doctors to move in those areas. So I've got lots of ideas. I'm a science guy, trying to make things work and getting things done are basically my motto.
And that's fantastic. And I want folks to know, because we do have a lot of listeners in Wisconsin. And thank you. Hello, my friends.
Sure.
For folks who might want to know, because a lot of us, unless you're really engaged, aren't necessarily familiar with what district we live in for our state legislature. So tell folks a little the area that District 11 encompasses.
Okay, there's 33 Senate districts, and half of them are up at this election. And it's a new map, actually. And so my district encompasses 4 counties: Kenosha County, all of Walworth County, parts of Racine County, and just a small part of Rock County. And it's drastically changed from 2024 when I ran last time, because it went all the way to Beloit and Janesville, and not very much of Kenosha, and not anything in Racine County. So the whole the constituent thing has changed. The map has changed dramatically, and unfortunately more Republican than it was before. But I did manage to get 44% of the vote last time, and that was amazing. Knocked on doors and did a lot of work. And people are, who knows what's going to happen by November. And with everybody, all the positions filled with Democrats, there are primaries in almost every category, so people have no excuse. And as I said, there's a couple of good things about that, because every candidate brings in new voters and helps the top of the ticket and the bottom of the ticket. And so I'm very pleased. We're going to see what happens actually in August 11th to see how many Democrats get out there and vote.
Yeah, we got to get folks fired up. Anyone listening in Wisconsin and those areas that Steve was telling you about, make sure you check your voter registration, talk to your friends, make a plan for all the things, voting and getting out the word. So we were talking about how the scope of the district demographically. When I was in Elkhorn, I remember meeting the folks that own a Mexican restaurant, some of the Latinos in the area. Tell us a little bit about the immigration population and what they're going through right now. And you also in Wisconsin, I don't know where the detention center is, but I know that you also are receiving detainees.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wisconsin's a dairy state, and when I taught in Argyle, a lot of my students were farmers, and they would get up at 5:30 in the morning to milk, and they had milk 3 times a day, and essentially go to school, go to football practice, come home and milk again. And it's a very, very difficult lifestyle, and it's hard to find workers, and it's 24/7, 365 days a year. And so what has happened, even in Walworth County, a lot of the farm workers, the dairy farmers now have hired immigrants. And so it's very prevalent here. And we don't know what's happening, because so much of it is behind the scenes and masks, and you don't know what's really happening. And obviously looking at how the local sheriff's department and police departments cooperate with ICE, there's a lot of contention there. And Delavan actually has a large part of their population being Hispanic, and a lot of them growing up there, a lot of businesses, and a lot of fear right now. It is frightening for a lot of people to just get out and do things. And it's a sad commentary, because we're an immigrant nation. I mean, it's so funny, because my grandfather came over from the Netherlands in 1914, and I think he came in through Canada into Wisconsin and did the logging, and then ended up in Sheboygan. So we have very close a relationship with immigrants in this country, and it just defies logic, and it's an excuse, and I'm frightened about the detention centers, and of course now the shooting in Maine, it brings the issue out again. It's just so inhumane, period, and I don't know why. Be kind. Just be kind.
Isn't it? God, you would think it wouldn't be this difficult, but people got to
Right.
find a reason
Yes.
to hate somebody.
Sure.
Yeah, it's horrible. By the way, the other thing, as an environmentalist, what is the situation, and what would be your sort of take your path in regards to AI centers that I know are really causing a lot of consternation?
Well, again, we're seeing basically had Foxconn come in when I was teaching there, and obviously they bought up all this land, and then it just kind of flopped. And now they're putting a data center. I mean, I went by it again. It's huge. I mean, a huge monstrosity. And of course, I guess they just filed a noise lawsuit because the noise level is high and the water usage. I would be pro 1 year moratorium on any large data center until the regulation catches up with the technology. It's always the technology moves so fast and the regulation is just not there. And these small little communities come in and they offer these little incentives to do this. And we're faced that in my district with a battery storage unit in Wheatland. The corporation came in and said, we're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And they have to sign all these non-disclosure agreements and stuff. So the citizens don't even know this is happening and they're upset. And it doesn't matter. One thing I found, it doesn't matter if they're a Republican or a Democrat, they're upset right now. And I think we found a common issue to try to deal with it. But I would be pro moratorium, just like New York just passed one year. Let's get our act together before we allow these things to happen. And we're right on Lake Michigan, and they want to take the water, out of Lake Michigan and put it back in.
Hey, they got to come through us too. You got to come through us too, boys.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is crazy because every day there's a new issue to deal with. It's not simple, and even with daycare centers in Wisconsin, I don't know if people are familiar with the fact that the subsidizing of daycare centers in Wisconsin, the state legislature did not pass the continuation of that, and it expired June 30th. And what's happening, they project that 1 out of 4 daycare centers in Wisconsin will be closing because of that. And that's just in an action from the state legislature. And they are controlled by the Republicans again.
Exactly. And that happened in Indiana. They closed over the same thing. They didn't provide the funding for childcare. And I believe over 300 centers have closed already.
Yeah, and this has only occurred June 30th, and most people don't realize that. Same with the stewardship plan in Wisconsin, the Knowles, Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund that's been in place for 40 years, where they put money in there and buy lands to buy land for parks. That expired June 30th. For the first time in 40 years, there's no funds to buy land for parks in Wisconsin.
Wow.
So again, and I put that at the feet of the Republican-controlled legislature right now. That may change.
Yeah. Let me give you a minute to a minute and a half to tell the voters of District 11, folks, check out where you're registered to vote, who your legislators are in Madison. Steve Dolder, who is running to be the state senator for District 11, give us your platform speech and why they should vote for you.
Well, number one, Wisconsin has a progressive tradition. Fighting Bob LaFollette came from here, and we did so many first things in Wisconsin. We were the first state to have kindergarten, the first state to have workers' compensation. There are so many firsts in progressive. We actually had 3 socialist mayors in Milwaukee that did so much for the working class in Milwaukee. And again, I would like to continue that tradition of doing the things that will help the working people and make it more affordable to just live. The Urban Institute study that just came out is that 25% of the people buying groceries now aren't paying off are using credit cards and can't pay off their bill on time and dipping into savings just to buy groceries. We need to help the working people and not the billionaire class. And I'm looking forward to see what we can do in Wisconsin to basically help that situation. And I'm going to be fighting, as I said, my model is making things work and getting things done for everyone. And that's why people should vote for me August 11th for the Democratic Party. And then we're going to come out swinging.
And that is Dolder.com. Stephen Dolder, running to be the state senator for District 11. That's DOELDER.com. Is there anywhere else you want folks to learn more about your campaign or events coming up?
Actually, you can go to the League of Women Voters. They actually have answers to the questions that they presented each candidate, and it's vote411.org. and you can look at each candidate in District 11 and see their stand on the questions that they ask every single candidate. It's great to have. I used it with my 99-year-old mother when she had to decide how to vote on school board candidates. League of Women Voters, Wisconsin Progress does the same thing. There's a lot of information out there for you to see how each candidate stands. So I'd encourage everyone. And of course, if you want to find on what's on your ballot, go to myvote.wisconsin.gov, and you can see what's on your ballot. Okay.
Well done, Steve Dolder, first state senator, District 11. It was so great to talk to you. Have a great rest of your day, and look forward to catching up with you again. And maybe I'll see you in Wisconsin. I'm coming up the 16th. By the way, I should tell everybody listening, I will be at the Kenosha Comedy Club in August as well. So I think it's like the 23rd, 24th. Anyway, I'll let you know. But I'm gonna be in Kenosha at the Comedy Club, so I would love to see folks. Excellent. Have a great night. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150, KTNF AM 950, and all of our friends tuning in digitally. We'll be right back after this.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Of course, all of our friends who are tuning in digitally on Facebook, YouTube, and now our friends on Substack through Minocqua Brewing Company's publication website. The marketplace. You know what I'm talking about. And for those of you listening in future times, as our friends from Politics Bars call you, thank you for tuning into our podcast available at heartlandsignal.com. We encourage everyone to visit heartlandsignal.com, where you'll also find stories from our newsroom, catching the stories that shape our democracy. I want to get to our next guest. I'm so excited because there's a lot of important races, happening all over the country. Wisconsin's 1st district has been in Republican hands since 1994. You might recall Mr. Paul Ryan, who previously held it, then handed it off to his old aide, Brian Steele. And for a corporate lawyer, Steele has done a real bang-up job looking out for corporations. Last summer, he voted yes on Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That's the one that pulls $1 trillion out of health care so the wealthiest folks in the country can get a tax cut. And here's what that looks like at the kitchen table. 1 in 5 Wisconsinites are on Medicaid. Nearly 700,000 are on food share. Rural clinics are closing their doors. Our next guest has spent his whole career on the other end of that math. He's an ER nurse. He spent a decade taking care of veterans at the Milwaukee VA. He grew up in a one-stoplight town, put himself through college working 3 jobs, and now he's going after that seat because Brian Steele doesn't even show up to town hall meetings to answer to his constituents. I've been at those meetings, and thank you to our friends in Elkhorn, Wisconsin for putting that together. Ellen Holly working hard. Our friend is on the August 11th Democratic ballot. Mitchell Berman, welcome to Driving It Home. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing very good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I do want to talk about that town you grew up in with one stoplight. Folks have driven through those towns, and a lot of people consider them just drive-through towns. Tell us about your community. What was that town like for you growing up in?
You got it. I mean, I think that, the one thing I learned growing up in a community like that is that everyone helps each other out. It's a place where, kids could be free to, come home when the street lights come on and feel safe. And it was a wonderful place to grow up. And I think that helped instill in me the values of, selflessness and just wanting to help people out and led me to the career of working in healthcare.
Was your family political, though? I mean, because I know that your experience has led you to want to figure out how to help people and where, to be in those rooms where decisions are made. Growing up, was your family engaged politically?
To be quite honest, they weren't. That was something I kind of really grabbed a hold of in college and later on in life. But I think really my folks were just really concerned with being able to put food on the table. They were working class people. They gave me a wonderful upbringing, but they worked really hard to give me a great childhood and to make sure that they could make ends meet for us. And, I think they instilled in me that hard work ethic that I have today. So
you mentioned that your community informed your decision to become an ER nurse or to become a nurse to help other people and support others. Do you remember that moment where this was the path to that? Was nursing?
Yeah. So, I grew up, like I said, in a very small town. I crossed the street from my grandmother, and it was like my second home. And so she developed early onset Alzheimer's. And spent, a lot of the end of her life in a long-term care facility. And I would go and spend time with her there, and ended up befriending a lot of other residents and folks who worked there. And they were like, you're good with just having conversations with people and, playing bingo with the folks there. And they're like, why don't you should think about this as a career. And so at 17 years old, I actually became a CNA and started working in that facility, and changed my life. Just the feeling that I got from, being able to care for people was something I couldn't recreate in any other aspect of my life. And so being able to help people is what I chose to do.
I don't know if you've seen in other parts, I don't even know why I'm asking you. I'm sure you stay on top of what's happening in the nursing field. Recently, places like Kansas wanted to lower their standards for nursing certification and degrees. Essentially, it seems because there are these investors who own these nursing homes and want to fill more beds. What do you want to tell folks about the field of nursing as you've seen it grow, and the impact, whether it's COVID, hedge fund investing, or the sort of the healthcare industry in general?
Yeah, I think one of the statistics that really jumps out to me, and I think is one of the scariest, is that the attrition rate of new nurses in nursing right now at the bedside is 50% after 2 years. And I think a lot of that has to do, with the working conditions that we're being asked to work in. I think that a lot of these organizations, like those long-term care facilities that are asking one nurse to take care of 60 patients on a wing, that's putting people in a position that is very difficult to overcome. And I think that they prey on people who go into the healthcare professions, their compassion, and because we want to be there for our patients. And so we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they get the care that they need. And that's a lot of times working in conditions that are just really unreasonable and putting people's lives at risk because we're short-staffed or understaffed. And so I think that catches up with folks. And so we need to really do a better job of supporting our nurses and make sure that we have safe nursing ratios.
And you are a member of the nursing union where you are, correct?
Correct. So, I'm an at-large member. So the current facility that I work at now is not organized.
Okay.
But I stayed an at-large member of my union that I was at when I was at the VA. So I worked for the VA for 11 years and was a union member there. Was also a union member at some other outside facilities where I worked that were unionized. So always a union member at unionized facilities. That started my love for organized labor started when I was in college. I was a Teamster working at UPS, unloading trucks at 4:00 in the morning so I could get to class by 8. Wow. And just saw the benefits that that part-time job gave me because the union, I had healthcare and was able to do that and still go to school. So, just kind of continued and looked at facilities where we had organized unions, because I think the only way that nurses have a seat at the table, the only way that, working class folks have a seat at the table with corporations and making sure that they get paid the fair wages that they deserve is, be able to be organized and have a collective voice.
Again, folks, we're talking to Mitchell Berman. He's running for the first congressional district of Wisconsin. And you mentioned that you were a VA nurse. And what did taking care of veterans show you about how this country keeps its promises or breaks them?
Yeah, I'll tell you, everyone that I work with in that facility was there for one reason, and that was to give veterans the best care possible. We strived every day to make sure that if somebody came into our department, and I worked in the ER, that they always left in better condition than they came in as. And I think what I really recognized, especially after this administration took over again in January last year, was that a lot of the issues with care at the VA didn't have anything to do with the people at the bedside, but it had to do with policy decisions that were trickling down from Washington and really handcuffing people at the bedside. And so, when this administration took over and DOGE came back in and Elon Musk started indiscriminately firing people at the VA, that's when I really recognized that the only way we were going to improve things for veterans, and not just vets at the VA, but for folks in our communities too, was to have somebody from the ground floor who had seen behind the curtain stand up and fight for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we all need to do, is roll our sleeves up. And when we talk about, the nursing industry field, industry makes it sound like that's the problem, right? It's a field, it's a calling to a lot of people. And, whether it's the veterans you've helped, whether it's your grandmother who was in long-term in memory care, one of the things that people have to choose between sometimes is paying for their prescriptions and their rent. When did you stop watching that as enough is enough and I want to decide to go to Washington? What was that moment for you?
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's a culmination. To be quite honest, it is kind of built up over time, and it's gotten to the point where it's like enough is enough. Something has to happen, and I'll tell you a particular experience that I had. We had an elderly woman come in who was on a fixed income and was in that same situation where it was like choose between paying for her medication or pay for her utilities, and she ended up in our emergency department because her electricity had been cut off, and she didn't have lights, and when she got up to go use the restroom in the middle of the night, she fell and injured herself. And so it's situations like that unfortunately are not unique. And, we can do a lot better job in this country of taking care of people. We have money for this directionless war in Iran. We have money for vanity projects in D.C. It seems like we have a lot of money for that sort of stuff. We have money for tax breaks for billionaires, but we don't have money to take care of people.
Well,
and that's where I push back a little bit.
Yeah, no kid. I don't blame you at all because you are seeing it firsthand. And as I mentioned, that One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which and the efforts to basically claw back money that is spent on Medicare, on Medicaid, on programs to support people where they are. The billionaires simply keep benefiting from that. And meanwhile, the Wisconsin Health Department says tens of thousands of adults could lose coverage from the new work requirement paperwork alone, right? And we're seeing this all over, not just for healthcare, but also for SNAP benefits. You've been filling out charts your entire career. What happens when the paperwork itself becomes the thing that keeps sick people from care?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, for me, looking at the results and the ramifications of that big, ugly bill and the cuts to Medicaid, the loss of the ACA subsidies, understanding that even if you didn't have Medicaid, or even if you didn't get your health care through the ACA, that this is going to affect you. Because like you said, these rural hospitals are at threat of closing. And just for instance, the hypocrisy, Brian Stile and Dr. Oz did a little tour at a hospital in the district in Racine. And that hospital in particular, almost 40% of their patients rely on Medicaid in order to, get their health care. And those folks are at risk of losing that health care. And that hospital is at risk of having to cut services for everyone. Even if you have Medicare or great insurance, those services may not be available to you because of these cuts that are coming because of the big ugly bill and the loss of the ACA subsidies.
I mean, that's the thing is that, tell folks what it means when you don't have access to a hospital nearby, maybe an OBGYN that's an hour or more away for these folks who want to force birth is all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, again, it's that point of letting people know that I remember a time before the ACA when folks were underinsured and uninsured. And what that does is that leads them to seek care usually later on when they're sicker. And it inundates emergency rooms and it really kind of clogs up the system. And then hospital organizations are left without being reimbursed for very long-term stays, long-term cares. And then they cut services to kind of fill in that gap or to tighten their belts. And so like you said, when they close OB units, when they lose MRI techs, for instance, a facility that I work at, no longer has an MRI tech 24/7 because of these cuts where they're trying to, tighten their belt. That means if you come to my hospital and you're having symptoms of a stroke, we now have to stabilize you and send you to another facility, and that's a delay in care. And that could be the difference between you ever walking again, talking again, or surviving. And so that's what's at risk here.
We are talking to Mitchell Berman, who is running for Wisconsin's 1st congressional district, where a Republican has had their hands on it since 1994. First Paul Ryan, now Brian Steele, who doesn't even show up to face his constituents because he has no shame. Or he should be ashamed, and he knows he should be, and that's why he doesn't show up. We'll figure that out some other time. It's not for us to decide. Do you have time for another segment with us, Mitchell?
I do.
Excellent. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation with Mitchell Berman. Before we do that, while we're on the break, let folks know where they can follow you, get more information about your campaign, website, socials, all the things.
Yeah, that's great. You can look us up on Facebook. It's just Mitchell Berman for Congress. And then you can find us online. Our website is bermanforcongress.com.
Excellent. We'll be right back with Mitchell in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1115 Seattle, KTNF AM 915 Minneapolis, St. Paul, and of course all of our digital followers, listeners, fans, and those otherwise. Hello, we see you. Well, we don't. You see us. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation in just a moment.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
No detours, no distractions. Just bold ideas and real talk. This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our conversation with Mitchell Berman, who's running for Wisconsin's 1st congressional district, where a Republican has been in control since 1994. We've been talking about his career on the other end of math when it comes to health care and what his experience has been, which informs his campaign and his philosophy in life. And we've talked about your work as a nurse, both in ERs and in VA situations, as well as the care for your grandmother and getting to know patients in memory care facilities. So let's talk about this race now. Steele has had 4 terms. Has he had 4 terms? If he is, it seems to me he's out of step with his district. So why do you think this seat has stayed red since 1994?
Yeah, well, I think gerrymandering, for one, I think partisan gerrymandering helped that happen. I think up until 2022, the district was pretty well drawn in favor of Republicans. It was made much more competitive when Tony Evers signed some new maps. And I think a lot of it is I think that folks in the district just didn't really have an opportunity to get really varying opinions and differences in party. And so I think that's where we can really draw that contrast is coming from a background where, I've experienced a lot of the things in life that people have dealt with. I think that gives them someone that they can relate to and gives us the upper hand in going into this election.
And folks, I want to remind you that Wisconsin's primary is on August 11th and early voting. Do you remember the day that early voting starts, Mitchell? I think it's like July, like the end of July.
Yeah, I think it's only a week away.
Yeah, I think we got. I just want to make sure folks know to make sure if you're getting a mail-in ballot, you're going to vote early. All the things. Make sure you check out all the information that you need to have ahead of that. So with this being a red seat since 1994, and I think folks have come close, or I think that there seems to be energy from what I've seen. We created a group called Fibs for Wisconsin. We went door knocking for many candidates so far, and I I won't put any thumbs on anything. So whoever is the candidate, I'm sure will be up helping out for the 1st congressional district. So what based on what you're talking when you're talking to folks, whether it's at the doors, on the phones, at events, what do you feel is different? I think we can speculate this time amongst voters in your area.
For sure. I think especially with this administration, I think folks are really starting to feel the ramifications of just the bad policies that Trump has enacted and Brian Style has supported. I think that goes, not only just to the effects of not being able to obtain health care and the cost of health care because of the result of the cuts that were made within the big ugly bill. But I think Donald Trump's blanket tariffs that have caused prices to rise at the store for everyone, this directionless war of choice in Iran, which has caused prices to go up at the gas pump. And I think people are just sick and fed up with the corruption in Washington, just the blatant, sort of enrichment that some of our members of Congress are participating in. And I'll tell you, Brian Style was the 4th most successful member of Congress last year, according to Unusual Wales, and beat the market by almost 63%.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, does that kind of information cut through to folks? I feel like because there's such a flood coming from the other side, like these details don't always cut through the noise.
And I think they count on that, right? I think Brian Style in particular does a very good job, if we give him credit for anything, at kind of sugarcoating things and only talking about things that seem like he's doing good deeds for the district. And he's just hoping that no one actually takes a look at his votes and that nobody actually takes a look and sees how well his stock portfolio is doing and who he's working for. If you look at his campaign contributions, he takes a lot of money from corporations, which he then seemingly turns around and write some pretty beneficial legislation for.
And we know that this administration feels threatened by what's happening in Wisconsin because there have been recent visits by both J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. What do you think? I mean, well, first of all, let me ask you, because Wisconsin gets a spotlight from them because they want to continue control. You have a supermajority of Republicans in the General Assembly. You've got Ron Johnson, one of the most outrageous senators, and because everybody else is so outrageous, it's been quiet for the most part. What in particular, let's say with ICE activity, is that affect? I mean, we know with agriculture, dairy in Wisconsin, what has been the response of neighbors, regardless of their politics, when it comes to immigration?
Yeah, 100%. I think the thing that comes is like, I think if anything, this administration has made it very clear that they are happy with eroding our constitutional rights in this country with massed forces roaming our streets. And I think that's angered a lot of people in our communities because they're seeing what's happening. They're seeing that, they're not going after criminals. They're attacking American citizens in the streets. They're going after members of our community who have lived almost their entire lives here. And I think that that's creating an undue amount of stress for folks in our communities. And people are ready for finally getting to the point where we can have some comprehensive immigration, a path to citizenship for folks, some immigration reform, because even the path that exists currently takes too long and puts a lot of people at risk.
We also, in addition to all that, with with masked agents and unmarked cars, and now Secretary Homan saying he doesn't know if the two men that were killed within a week had vehicles with lights and sirens. And then there's no there's so many things. There's so many levels to it. And on top of that, we're seeing across the country, in addition to ICE activity, also data centers. I know that southern Wisconsin, and I know that there are other parts, but in particular in your area, what are people? How are they reacting to these data centers? As we know that the drain on natural resources, the impact, like even the sound pollution, all those things. What are the conversations like around data centers?
Yeah, that's a huge topic here in our district, and especially after the whole Foxconn debacle that happened here. So a lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth to begin with. And I think the thing is and what I've heard resoundingly throughout the district is that, people don't want these in their backyard. They want to make sure that we have some sort of guardrails in place to make sure that if these data centers do come into Wisconsin, and that's if, right, that there's some sort of protections for our environment, for our air, for our water, and to make sure that they're not coming in at the expense of people in the communities. They shouldn't, ratepayers shouldn't have to worry about their utility costs going up, and we shouldn't be giving tax breaks to these billion-dollar corporations. They certainly should be able to pay their own way and not be doing things on the backs of taxpayers. And I think, one thing that jumps out to me and people have really taken notice of is the fact that Oracle, who's building a large data center here in Wisconsin, took up a lawsuit against the Public Service Commission, who created a new policy which said they would have to sort of bear the brunt of the utility costs for these things. And so they sort of showed their cards that they never really meant to come in and be good members of our community. So that has a lot of people frustrated, and I'm glad to see the amount of people that are coming out and using their voice, because that's what we need to do. And, people ought to have a say of what goes on in their communities.
Absolutely. And with the, we mentioned immigration, how are, in addition to that, there's tariffs, there's a rise in costs that you mentioned. How are our friends in agriculture doing in Wisconsin?
Very poorly. I'll tell you, our farming friends are getting hit from every direction. And bankruptcies are up 700% in Wisconsin.
Whoa.
Farm bankruptcies. And so that has to do with the tariffs that have caused fertilizer prices to be through the roof, as well as the war in Iran, causing diesel prices to be up. The tariffs also affected costs for tractor implements and parts. And not only that, but they lost their markets. So when Donald Trump put these blanket tariffs on everyone, folks said, that's fine, we'll get our soybeans somewhere else, and really washed up a lot of markets for folks. And, some people don't think of this, but also the cuts to SNAP and the loss of USAID was also a place where a lot of farmers sold their goods. And so right now they're looking at really increased costs to get this seed in the ground and then nowhere to sell it.
Wow. We are talking to Mitchell Berman, who's running for Wisconsin's 1st congressional district. This is a pretty crowded primary. Again, the primary is on August 11th. The early voting starts, I believe, 2 weeks out of the primary. So that would be at the end of August. What makes you the Democrat who can flip this seat in November?
Yeah, I think people are really looking for someone who has some skin in the game and who has experienced the same sort of struggles in life that they have. That way they can look at things sort of through the lens of having walked a mile in their shoes. And, I built my forever home here in a rural aspect of the district. I've chosen to raise my 2 daughters here, and they go to public school in our communities. My wife and I both work for a local hospital that takes care of people here in our community. And I think, people people are really looking for someone who understands what it's like to come from a working class background, who fears coming up short at the end of the month, wondering if they're going to have enough money to make the rent. And those are all things that I've experienced in my life. And so, when I look at solutions to problems, I take a very pragmatic approach. And a lot of the things that we're dealing with today aren't partisan, right? Being able to make your rent, being able to afford to go to the doctor, looking at the corruption in Washington, those things aren't Democratic or Republican issues. Those are working class issues here for folks in the district. And I think they're looking for someone who comes from a similar walk of life, who they can relate to and advocate for policies that are going to actually just improve their lives here on the ground.
Well, thank you so much for getting into the race, for wanting to serve your community beyond the work that you've done in your career. Again, we've been talking to Mitchell Berman, who is running for the Wisconsin 1st Congressional District. You can go to bermanforcongress.com. That's BERMAN for Congress.com. And the social media handles?
You can look up Mitchell Berman for Congress at Facebook, and then all of our social media handles are on there as well.
Outstanding. Well, go get them. Thank you so much for joining us and telling your story, and again, for running for office to serve your community. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Patty, for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Wonderful to talk to all of our guests today, and great to end with Mitchell Berman. Hope that you guys have a great evening. Talk to you later. Love you, Lady B.